Hello everybody. As you can tell, I recorded chapter 8 and chapter 9 back to back because my daughter is napping, so this is the best time for me to work, and my son is busy doing his homework, so this is the best time for me to record. Now you can see I'm working from home, so it's really hard, especially if you're a parent. You understand what I'm saying. Anyhow, chapter 9. Chapter 9 is very important in terms of the topics that we are going to cover, and these are the topics that you are familiar with, and you probably hear a lot about unemployment rate these days. Unfortunately, right, because of the coming recession, and some economists are saying that we are already in the recession. And if you look at the numbers and everything, close to 6 million people. Of course, today is April 2nd that I'm recording the video. It might be more when we start our class. Filed for unemployment insurance. So a really it's really catastrophic what's happening in the labor market. So the topics that we're going to discuss in this chapter are inflation rate and unemployment rate. So we're going to start with unemployment rate, and probably in another video I will explain inflation rate, okay? Because unemployment rate is already kind of long. Make sure that you read all the definitions, the way that we define unemployment, employed, okay, full-time, part-time, and it is just for United States. It might be different in other countries. We're just talking about unemployment rate and inflation rate in the United States in this chapter, okay? Remember that the institution that is in charge of reporting both unemployment rate and inflation rate is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's a huge organization. They are now dealing with, of course, lots of data and information, because things are changing every second in the labor market these days because of COVID-19. So that's the institution in charge, okay? They do have a survey that they are responsible for, and they collect this survey every single month. And honestly, I'm not sure how they're going to do it right now that people are staying at home. They do not want to be in touch with anybody. We're practicing social distancing, and it's very important. But in regular times, they go door to door and they ask everybody about the status, their employment status, about their gender, about the number of people in the household. They typically go to metropolitan areas, of course, so they might not come to our door in Cyprus. But they collect all this information about their age, anything that you think about, and they call it the current population survey, okay? They bring it back, all this information, to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The only part of population that they're interested in is the 16 years old and older, okay? And they call them the working age population. These are 16 years old and older who are either in the labor force or they are not, okay? These are the group of people who are not in the hospital at the time that they're doing the survey. They are not in jail at the time of the survey. They are not in any institutional care at the time of the survey. They are not in the military at the time of the survey. So they call these people in this group the working age population. People in the working age population can be in the labor force, and they might not be in the labor force. If you are in the labor force, you are either employed or you are unemployed. You are not in the labor force, let's say, if you are 16 years old and older, but you are a full-time student. You do not work whatsoever. So you are in the working age population, but you are not in the labor force, okay? You are retired. You are 16 plus, but you are not in the labor force, but you are still in the working age population, okay? So in the working age population, we have people who are in the labor force, and we have people who are not in the labor force, like the full-time students, retired people, okay? If you are in the labor force, however, you are either employed, you have a job, part-time, full-time, doesn't matter, or you are unemployed. You do not have a job, but according to Bureau of Labor Statistics definition, you are actively looking for a job. Okay? We also have a very important group of people right here that do not have a job, but they are not looking for a job. We call them discouraged workers. They just gave up. They look for a job. They couldn't find anything. They just give up. Okay? We call them working age population. Working age population is not in the labor force. Okay? They're not unemployed anymore because they gave up. If you are unemployed, you're actively looking for a job. So these are important definitions we have. And when we want to calculate the unemployment rate, we just look into the number of unemployed people. Check out the formula. It's the number of unemployed divided by the labor force. And since it's in terms of percentage, you should multiply it by 100, okay? That's a very, very important economic indicator, unemployment rate. So know how to calculate unemployment rate. Another important indicator we have in this chapter is the labor force participation rate. Again, make sure you check out the formula. It's the percentage of the working age population who are in the labor force. So again, these are the people who are employed and unemployed. So if you really want to get a sense of what's happening in a country, of course, I'm not talking about the days that we are in dealing with COVID-19, look into the unemployment rate and labor force participation rate, both. Then you can get a sense what's happening in the labor market in that country, okay? Because sometimes labor force population can be high because we have unemployed people, because at the top of the ratio, you have labor force. Labor force is employed, number of employed, plus the number of unemployed, okay? So look into the labor force participation rate, look into the unemployment rate, and compare them now that you know the definition, and see what's really going on in the country, okay, in terms of employment. Another important thing we have in this chapter are the 4 different types of unemployment we have. We have frictional, we have seasonal, we have a structural unemployment. These are the unemployment types that we are not really worried about because they happen with the changes in the labor market. They're happening because of the change in the season. They are happening because of changes in the technology and competition. The type of unemployment that we are concerned about, economists are concerned about, government politicians are concerned about, are called cyclical unemployment. And this is the one that right now those people who are losing their jobs because of COVID-19 are dealing with. It's called cyclical unemployment. So make sure you know the definition of each type of unemployment here, okay? But note that the type that we are dealing with right now in United States and of course many other countries is called cyclical unemployment because it's happening because of the changes in the business cycle. People are losing their jobs because of the situation of the economy. And really we don't know how long it will take for us to recover from this recession, okay? Hopefully fast, but we really don't have any idea. Hopefully we have a medicine or a vaccine soon, but of course the doctors are saying we really don't know when we have a vaccine, at least a year, but hopefully we will have at least a medicine so to treat COVID-19. Anyhow, so know the types of employment. Another important topic in this chapter that you need to know is full employment. We're going to come back to this topic in future chapters. Full employment is when we have different types of unemployment. We have structural, we have seasonal, we have frictional, but we do not have any seasonal, okay? We do not have, any cyclical. So we have all different types of unemployment except cyclical, okay? So when we say we are at full employment, it doesn't mean that the unemployment rate is 0. It means that we have natural unemployment rate, which is 5% in United States. So if we do not have any recession, the good number for our unemployment rate is 5%. okay? We call it full employment. So if the economy is at full employment, the unemployment rate should be equal to 5%, which is called the natural unemployment rate. And natural unemployment rate is the sum of frictional unemployment, seasonal unemployment, and a structural unemployment. So if we are at full employment, cyclical unemployment should be close to zero because we are not dealing with changes in the economy, in the business cycle, basically. And another important terminology you need to know is called potential GDP. If we are at full employment, we call the level of real GDP potential GDP. So it's just a number, okay? It's just a number. But if the economy is at full employment, meaning that we do not have any cyclical unemployment, we call the real GDP potential GDP. Sometimes we are at full employment, sometimes we are not. Right now, we are in recession. We're entering the recession because of COVID-19, because of the coronavirus. So there would be a gap between real GDP, the actual real GDP, and this potential GDP, the real GDP that we should have when we are at full employment, okay? If we are experiencing expansion, if the economy is growing rapidly, if the economy is booming, unemployment rate is low, inflation rate is low, again, we will have some sort of a gap between the actual GDP and this potential GDP, okay? If we are at full employment, there is no gap. Real GDP is the same as potential GDP, okay? So the next topic that you need to study is the GDP gap. You should be able to calculate the GDP gap, which is nothing but the gap between the actual GDP or the current GDP and potential GDP. If we are at recession, this GDP gap is negative, obviously. And if we're experiencing expansion, the GDP gap would be positive. That's pretty much it for unemployment. So make sure you know how to calculate unemployment rate, labor force participation rate. As I said, pay attention how we are defining working age population, labor force, not in the labor force, discouraged workers, output gap, know the types of unemployment. And in the next video, I will talk about inflation rate. For now, bye-bye.